I was like, what are all these random people standing around for? And it turns out they're waiting for their kids to get off camp or school or something. What's up, guys? It's me, Lori, aka Loretta Chow, the sex reporter, here to start objective conversations about sex, dating, and relationships. So one of the issues that has come up in the news recently is the classification of sex addiction and the inclusion of sex addiction as an actual, like, official recognized condition in psychology. This is important because there are a lot of people that are advocating for and against it. There are people who want to have a sort of like formal name to call compulsions when it comes to sexuality. And then there are also people who are very, very much against it because they don't want to pathologize a condition that may not actually be a problem, and it's only a problem because there are like sort of moral pressures from society to treat it as a problem. It's actually a very nuanced subject, and it's very important because we talk about sex addiction all the time. It's always in headlines. Anytime you see a celebrity getting accused of cheating on their spouse, anytime you hear about someone who masturbates to the point of like getting hospitalized or something like that, like these sensational type of headlines that everybody loves to cover, the word comes up. And when it does, it's always treated as something goofy, something that catches the eye when you're scrolling through Google or Facebook or whatever. And so it's important to educate people on what it actually means. Now, scientifically speaking, researchers have tried to see if sex addiction is an addiction like an addiction to a substance like drug abuse, and they have not found any evidence to show that there is actual chemical addiction to sex or masturbation or pornography or anything like that. But it is a behavioral addiction. In other words, there are people who will be addicted to sex or porn or masturbation to the point where it's actually detrimental to their daily lives, preventing them from being able to function well in terms of work or in their relationships and stuff like that. And when that happens, then there is a reason to talk to those people about it and to see if there's any way to, basically deal with those addictive behaviors. But the word addiction is problematic because a lot of normal people who are not like in the medical or science community just sort of assume that all addictions are the same. So in addition to people sort of mixing up the types of addictions, it can be dangerous to talk about them this way because there are people like therapists, educators, people who love you, who will try to diagnose you with sex addiction because your appetite for sex or your expression of your appetite for sex doesn't fit in with their moral values. And that is not a medical thing, that's a social thing. So if you happen to live in a place where maybe people have more conservative views of sex and feel that, any sex that isn't meant for procreation is a deviant behavior, then you're going to get shamed and be made to feel like you have a problem when you're actually just a red-blooded human being that has a sexual appetite. It's not like in society we don't have a long history of trying to police the morality around sexuality and telling people like, if you don't have this specific kind of sex with this specific kind of person, you are a freak and a crazy person and you need therapy and all this other stuff. We have a very dark history of that. Because of that, we don't want to then give people the power to draw like a moral line about a medical condition. We don't want people to be able to say like, hey, morally I feel that premarital sex is bad, and therefore if you can't help yourself but to have it, you must have a psychological problem. So that is basically my unscripted, rambly way of describing the debate here. So the World Health Organization, which is the one that published this classification recently, is very careful to say that sex addiction cannot be diagnosed by a person based on moral grounds. And so it's important that they got that right. I think the official classification actually is sexual behavior disorder, which doesn't use the word addiction, and yet I know that many headlines are calling it an addiction. So there is exactly like the problem that I'm talking about. I think that it's important to get this out there and to talk about it because it's a common question. If you go on any forum, any anonymous forum where people are worried about themselves and about their own behaviors, the big question is always like, am I addicted to sex? Am I watching too much porn? Is my partner addicted to sex? Is my partner addicted to that? Or even famous cases like I mentioned earlier of celebrities cheating, and then everyone jumping in and being the therapist and saying like, this person must be addicted to sex because how could they cheat on such a beautiful person? As if that has any bearing on their mental health. So it's not that certain compulsive sexual behaviors can't be detrimental to your health and to your lifestyle, or that if you give into any sort of compulsion whatsoever, you shouldn't try to keep that under control. Like if you literally can't control your sexual urges, that may be a very big problem for you. But that aside, flippantly talking about sex addiction and acting like it's some easily diagnosed problem and that anyone who has a higher libido than everyone else, or anyone who happens to enjoy, you know, visual stimulation in pornography more than anyone else, or anyone who like masturbates more than you think is quote unquote normal, that's not sex addiction. So that's one of the types of things that like make headlines that I feel like is worth analysis. And you'll see there's like a lot of articles that are citing this this report now. I'm gonna link some articles down below that are really useful by people who have been outspoken about the topic so that you guys can see the different sides of the debate. So I've been back on monitoring news and stuff like that. I don't always get a chance to do it consistently because I used to have this series called Sex in the News where I would go through headlines and then, you know, give some commentary and analysis on stuff that came out. If you guys have seen one of those videos, let me know what you think, or maybe if you can take a look and just sort of let me know in the comments if you like that format, if you like that series, if you think there's something more that you would like to see about it or less. Because I think like just reviewing other people's coverage can sometimes be really helpful in my mission in terms of trying to promote objective journalism, objective coverage of sex. It's not like I'm going to be covering every single breaking news development that happens in the realm of sexuality, but I think that there are a lot of good journalists out there that are doing it, and also there are a lot of people out there who are not really treating it like serious journalism, and so a lot of misinformation gets out. So I like to catch those little things and point them out, you know what I'm saying? For those of you who like watch me regularly, I think it would actually be really helpful if you tag me or forward stuff to me if you see it. Don't assume that I have seen it, because I do have alerts and stuff on, and I do stay on social media and look at stuff, but I don't always have time to like scan through every single headline. So if there's some story that you want my feedback on, or you think it's interesting to flag to other people in the community, let me know and I will definitely address it somehow. I have a couple of things that are exciting upcoming as well that I think I could use some input from you guys for. One is that a lot of people have requested a man's version of the single over 30 video, and I would love to do that. So if anybody out there is willing to submit their perspective on what it's like to be single over 30, let me know. I will reach out to you and give you some questions to answer in video. All you need is a cell phone to do this. Seriously, it's not hard at all. And I will link also the women's version of it below so you can see what I did with that. And another project I want to do, which is about equal pleasure rights. If you see that I always have this hashtag equal pleasure rights on my social media, it's because one of the major issues in sexuality today is the overemphasis on the male gaze in terms of like what porn teaches us. Sex is over, you know, when the guy comes, and women, there's a huge orgasm gap in terms of women reaching climax during sex, and also women being taught to explore self-pleasure when they're younger. So what I want to do is have a research series talking about various aspects of this: masturbation, sex toys, the market for sex toys and the availability of them in terms of a business, but also talking to experts about how we can reach a little bit more equality in the bedroom, as in, you know, how men can withhold ejaculation a little bit longer if there are techniques to do that, or if there are other ways to have sex that don't necessarily end with one person having an orgasm and the other person not. So those are topics that I think are really fascinating. I think would be useful to, you know, have some interviews with experts for. So I'm working on that as well. If you guys have any questions related to that, please leave them down below, reach out to me privately, and I will try to get them answered as part of the reporting process. So I think that's it for today. If you have not subscribed, please remember to click that subscribe button and the bell next to it so you can get notifications of new videos. As always, a like, a comment, a share are super helpful, really helps me get the word out, especially since my videos can sometimes be suppressed. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.